Hey guys, and welcome back to the farm. I'm Susie, your host, and in today's video we are going to do some thrift flip projects. I'm going to be working on some things that I have multiples of, and the first project is going to be these bundt pans. I probably have 6 or 8 of these bundt pans in my stash. I usually pick them up if they're under $2. Looks like this one was $1.99. This one does not have a price tag, and this one was $2.99. So I've been trying to think of something to do with these to get some of them out of my stash, and so today I'm going to work on them. I'm going to go ahead and paint them all. I'm not trying to veer too much from the original colors, so I'm going to paint this one with a yellow. I am using Fusion paint, which has a built-in sealer and great coverage. For this green one, I'm going to use my favorite year-round. I feel like this is a year-round green called Carriage House. I just love the gray tone of it, and it goes great with summer and will also go right into fall and maybe even Christmas. And what I'm going to do with these bundt pans can be changed out through the season. For this beige one, I'm going to paint it Chateau. All of these are Fusion, which has a built-in top coat, and I do not need to seal these once the 2 coats are done. I do like to distress on things like this because I just love the look of metal coming through. So I don't necessarily want to bring out that original yellow color, but I do want to get down to that metal because I just really love the way that that looks on all of these details. So I'm going to go ahead and distress them all using a little bit of 220 grit sandpaper, and then once I get them all distressed, we're going to move on to the next step. Years ago, I had also picked up these like a case of these cathedral windows, I guess, and I've sold a few of them here and there with a wreath hanging on it, but I thought that these bundt pans would go perfect, and I could also make use of some of these. So I'm going to put a little hook on the bottom, and I did get a little bit out of the frame here, but you get the idea. I'm drilling this little hook into the back so there will be something you can hang something on. I didn't have any black screws, so I'm just filling in the silver screws with a paint pen here. And then we're going to go back to the bundt pans. I am going to hot glue just a small piece of floral foam into the center of each bundt pan, and then I have just picked a bunch of thrifted or Walmart florals. I've got florals everywhere, and I picked a bunch that were mostly green and yellow, so they can be left in there and other florals added for the seasons, or they can all be removed. I am going to put some dogwoods in these for summer, but I think that I can just remove the dogwoods and probably put some floral foliage and maybe some little pumpkin picks in these for fall if they don't sell before then. When I'm doing floral arrangements, I find if I cut my florals down into pieces, it's much easier to arrange them how I like them and make them look more uniform. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm filling in each as I go, so I try to get a good mixture of all the flowers into each one, and then when I finish up, I'm just going to stuff some Spanish moss in around it just to make sure that you can't see the floral foam in there anymore. And these bundt pans are done. I drilled a little hole in them and then hooked them onto the little cathedral windows, and you can hang a dish towel. If you see, I have a rolling pin on one. They look amazing together. All the colors coordinate so well together. Or you could just have one and it would be so cute hanging in your kitchen. speaking of rolling pins, I also have probably 6, 7 of these in my stash, so I need to work through them. I'm loving the theme that we're going with and the colors that we're using, so I'm going to continue that throughout today's video. And to start with, I am going to decoupage this rolling pin, so I'm going to paint the center in a lighter color. I just find that the lighter color decoupage papers pop so much more, the details on them and the images, if there's a light base. There's no need to do several coats or even have full coverage. I'm just going to do one coat into the center of this rolling pin, let it dry, and then we are going to decoupage onto it. For the decoupage paper that I've chosen, this is from Roy Cycled, the spring release, and this is called Butterfly Masterboard. It is from the spring release, but I do feel like the muted colors and everything will go well with fall as well. So I'm just laying it out here, trying to find the images that I for sure want to put on my paper, and I narrowed it down to these two, which both fit perfectly, and I eventually went with the one that has the gorgeous fern on it. I love ferns, and I love the color of this one on this paper. I think it will go great with the carriage house green color that we're using today. All of the decoupage papers, fusion paint, IOD that I use in my projects are available on my website, susieonthefarm.com, if you're looking for something to transform your own projects. To decoupage this on, I'm using the Fusion Transfer Gel, and it's real easy to decoupage onto a rolling pin. I just use a little starter strip. I use my fingers and my paintbrush to smooth it all out, making sure I get all the wrinkles out. And I also like to mist my paper. Some people say they don't have any luck with misting, but for me, it works great. So just experiment, whatever works well for you. I can't seem to use the cling wrap method like other people use without tearing my paper, but I don't have any issues with misting my paper. So once I get all the wrinkles out, and y'all, this actually came out absolutely perfect. I cannot even believe that the pattern matched up at the very end here. So this paper worked great on this rolling pin. After I get it all decoupaged down, I'm going to go over it one more time with another coat of the transfer gel and just make sure it is stuck down all the way. And then I'm going to paint the handles using, you guessed it, that carriage house green. It matches that butterfly and that fern absolutely perfect. So I'm going to do 2 coats on each of the handles, and then I'm going to distress them back. And I do not need to seal this anymore. I did good coats of the transfer gel over the decoupage paper, and the paint on the handles has a built-in sealer, so I don't need to do that. I tied a little jute twine on this, and you can hang this rolling pin or put it in it would be so beautiful in a crock. Also, wait till your decoupage paper is dry, and then I just sanded off the very edges of that paper just to clean up those edges a little bit. And then this cute little rolling pin is done. Upcycling rolling pins is one of my absolute favorite things to do, and they usually sell really well. I usually sell them depending on what's on them, how much time I put into them. I usually sell them for anywhere from $12.99 to $15.99. Another common thrift store item that I tend to pick up a lot around here anyway are crosses. I love crosses. They sell well for me. This one was super heavy, in great shape. The back was nice and clean, and it still had its hanger and all its little things to keep it from banging on the wall. The only thing is I did not like that paint job. I just feel like I get where they were going with trying to highlight all those raised areas, but I feel like that color down in the lower parts looks like built up dust. It's not, because I cleaned this very well. That is the actual paint job. So we're gonna fix that. I'm going to give this 2 coats of Chateau, and I am going to make sure I get it down in all of those little details and cracks, and then I'm gonna let it dry, and we will come back with the next step. I decided instead of using a wax on this, that I would do a dry brushing, and I debated on what color to dry brush over this, but I decided on Oakum, which if you've been watching my channel a little while, you know I'm kind of obsessed with that color, and I think it turned out really great over this Chateau. If you've never dry brushed before, it's very easy, and I'll show you here in just a minute. I'm sorry if y'all are hearing that siren in the background. It's the first Wednesday of the month, and they always test the tornado sirens for 5 or 10 minutes every Wednesday morning. So once I get this all painted with 2 coats of the Chateau, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and dry brush the details. Dry brushing takes very little paint, so I'm just going to dip my brush into the paint, and then I'm going to offload most of it onto my drop cloth there until my brush is fairly dry, and then I'm with a very, very, very light hand just going to drag it over my cross. And I never actually dip my brush back into the paint. I just dip it into that paint that I offloaded there onto the drop cloth. So like I said, very little paint, one little tip of the paintbrush dipped in there, and it was enough to complete this entire cross. When I first start dry brushing, I'm thinking, oh, this doesn't look good, but then just continue until you make it look how you like it. I did go ahead and do the sides as well, and then I will just clean up that back with a sandpaper, because the back's in such good shape and it's not going to be shown. So I just clean it up and make sure I get all of the excess paint that accidentally got onto the back. And I love how this cross turned out. It looks so much better to me with this paint job. Fourth and final project, I'm going to do another clipboard. I did these in a video a couple months ago, and they went over really well. So I ordered a case off Amazon, and I will leave the link in the description box below, the ones that I ordered. But I think I got a case of 30. So I need to get these upcycled. Like I said, they went over really well, and I think that they are a great way to showcase my decoupage papers, and especially I wanted to do one with this gorgeous butterfly masterboard that we have been working with today. So I'm just laying it out. I painted it with 1 coat of Chateau to give it a light base, and now I'm just deciding which piece of the decoupage paper I want to use. And I chose this one because of those 3 butterflies and of course that beautiful fern. I love ferns, so I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the rolling pin and do a starter strip of the Fusion Transfer Gel, mist my paper, and then get all the wrinkles out with my finger and or the paintbrush. And then I will just continue on down until I get this entire back of this clipboard done. I usually like to do the front, but I was thinking if you're like a teacher and you're holding the clipboard, you know, while you're giving a lecture or something like that, the back is going to be shown. So I'm going to do something on both the front and the back of these. I just think that that's a good way to do these. And you could also do coordinating decoupage papers on the front and the back, but I'm going to use a stamp on the front. So once I get this all decoupage down, I'm going to go over it twice actually, because this could be handled a lot, could be thrown around on a desk a lot. So I want it to be really sturdy. So I'm going to do 2 coats of the transfer gel over the top of it to seal in this paper really good and protect it. Normally, I like to let my decoupage paper sit overnight to dry, but I helped this one along with a heat gun. Usually, I am doing projects just for an hour and a half or so in the evenings, but now that I am not working my full-time job anymore, I can sit down and do several projects in one day. So I used the heat gun to get this completely dry, and now I'm just going to use my finger sander, mostly going in a downward motion to clean off all the edges. You just don't want to go up with it, because if you go up, you could pull your decoupage paper up. And then for the front of this, I'm going to paint it with, you guessed it, Carriage House. I do recommend, if you're going to do it this way, where you paint one side and do decoupage paper on the other side, that you do your paint side first, because I wasn't able to carefully enough not get any green paint on the other side when I was doing the edges of this. So you'll see in the end that I do have a little bit of this paint on the decoupage paper, but that's okay. But it just would have been easier to, you know, just go over that if I had painted this side first. So for the next one I do, I will definitely paint this side first. Remember, most of the time when y'all see me do a project, it's the first time I've ever done the project, so I'm learning as I go, and I don't mind sharing with y'all the mistakes I made or things that would have worked out easier, because that's what I'm here for, is to show you different ways to do things and the easier way to do things, and sometimes I don't get it right the first time. Paint has dried, I remember the butterfly stamp. This is an oldie but a goodie. I love this one, and I particularly love the ones that have the names of the butterfly underneath. So what I'm going to do is just pick out 3 of those and line them up and stamp them onto the front side of this clipboard. So I'll lay them all out how I want them, and then I will take my thin mount, lay over, pick them all up with the thin mount. I'm using IOD black permanent ink on this, and I'm just going to ink up all of them. And my thin mount was quite dirty, so I couldn't tell what was new ink, if I had accidentally got some on there, or if it was just old ink that had dried. So I did take a baby wipe and just went around my stamps to make sure there wasn't any excess ink on them that was going to transfer onto my project. And then I just laid the butterflies down, and with one hand I held the thin mount in place, used my other hand to rub on each of the stamps, making sure to make good contact, just making sure to keep one hand in place all the time so the stamps do not move around and smear. And then raise it as straight up as you can. And these turned out beautiful, but you will see in the end that I didn't let my ink dry long enough, and I did smear just a little bit of one of them. It doesn't look too bad, and I can probably go back and fix it, but I didn't have time to do that in this. I also decoupaged some more of that butterfly masterboard onto these Dollar Tree house frames, and put up some resin molds that I had already casted on those. I just think they go so well with all of today's projects. All of today's projects are so coordinating, and I love how they look together. There's where I smeared it just a little bit, but you can wipe that off. Hopefully I can wipe most of it off and restamp it. But I love how all these turned out. Like I said, they're all coordinating. They look so well together. They will go right into fall, which I'm already beginning to start thinking about fall projects and what I can do. I hope that y'all have enjoyed this video and these projects. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. I always like to hear your comments, your guys' suggestions, anything. And I will see you back again next Wednesday.